because our economy rebounded last year with growth of 7.5%. It was the fastest pace of growth since 1941. However, and there's a but, it came after a massive 9.4% collapse in 2020 as the pandemic forced parts of the economy to shut. Chancellor Rishi Sunak said the economy had been, I quote, remarkably resilient. And the UK is now confirmed as the fastest growing economy of the G7. Got to be said, though, other countries didn't suffer the same sharp decline that we did. So it just kind of made me think, what is going on with the economy? Because I've just mentioned there, good growth, but offset, of course, by the fact that we've had steep declines. There's lots of talk about the whole Brexit situation and what that's doing, what the future should look like for the UK economy as we've now left the European Union. Nabila, your thoughts on all of this?
Well, clearly, as you said, I mean, the GDP has enjoyed a huge bounce, mainly thanks to the terrible figures of in 2020 because of repeated lockdowns and the like. But I think this story is very much about global Britain, as it were, and what it's all about now. It's very much linked to GDP, but also trade, and there are lots of stories linked about UK's trade with what we'd call distant partners that are highlighted in the media more and more. But I think they give the wrong impression, however, because Britain has been trading with distant partners, and especially countries like China, long before Brexit, and for the simple reason that China is, of course, an industrial powerhouse. But I think that pretending that Brexit has somewhat speeded up Britain's reliance on distant partners is wide off the mark. I mean, these are just global trends that have been happening for years. And I think we should also be careful about what we might call the coronavirus economy, which is hugely significant to, yes, the Chinese economy provided millions of masks and other protective equipment. And with luck, I mean, this kind of business won't go on forever. But we should bear in mind that the EU remains the main trading bloc and is a massive trading bloc as regards Britain, and this won't change either.
Well, I'm glad that things are on the up, and obviously it's a bit deceptive given the problems of the economy in recent years and the collapse of the economy last year. But my main concern really is that we're not, in a sense, using the potential of Brexit to its maximum effect. And it seems to me that the problem with Britain is that the investments in infrastructure and in technology are very, very limited. We need to raise productivity in the economy in order to be a competitive player on the global market. We now have the political wherewithal to do that because things are under our control.
But what would you like to see more of then?
I'd like to see the government not just talk about levelling up in the way that it does, but actually saying, you know, these are the sectors of the economy that we want to bank on. We want to really build a first-class infrastructure. They're talking about a net zero economy, and in order to have a net zero economy, they're importing all the technology for that from Scandinavia and other parts of the world. Why don't we make it ourselves? I mean, the Northeast would be a wonderful place to begin to sort of create these new technologies that we need for the future. And it seems to me that the real problem is that the way we're moving at the moment is that we're relying on other countries for the technology. And we're kind of going back to the bad old ways of relying upon things like consumer growth, relying on things like finance and the service sector of the economy. And that cannot keep going forever. And that seems to me the real problem, that we're somehow ignoring industry, which is quite foundational for a thriving, flourishing economy.
Yeah, I've got to say as well, when you talk about industry and investment, etc., it makes me wonder and question, do we even have a robust, clear industrial strategy?
That's right.
Because that would be my first point. When we talk about, let's invest more here, there and everywhere, what are the industries that we want the UK to be pioneering? Do you think we've got an answer to that question, Daniel?
Well,
we have a strong industrial strategy.
I get very worried when I hear people talking about an industrial strategy set by the government, because it usually leads to governments picking winners who turn out to be duds. And we have a long history of doing that. But it's clear the sectors of the economy in which Britain has a lead, but maybe there should be others, but it's clear that we are absolutely a world beater in pharmaceutical, medical services, medical technology. We have the most tech startups in the world and outside California, and attract the biggest investment in Europe into those areas and things of that sort. So we know where we're leaders. Frank, understandably, seems to want us to be leaders in other areas as well, and perhaps that's right that we should. But the question then is the way to make us leaders in other areas for the government to pick them and then invest in them, or is the way to remove the regulations that hold people back, make investment easier, and allow firms to earn a proper return so that investment actually becomes attractive? And I think that's the balance I'd go for. Just on the growth figures, what the growth figures show is actually not very exciting. Basically, all of the G7 countries are getting more or less back to the level of economic activity they had before the pandemic. They're all doing it at roughly the same rate. We happen to be a bit faster at the moment, partly because we were a bit faster on the way down. We're doing it a bit faster, but roughly that's where everybody is. And we're more or less getting back to where we were before. So I don't go in for a lot of this, Britain is faster than the others. We're all roughly the same.